Legislative session number 2023-17 for September 5th, 2023 for the Wicomico County Council. Those that would like to stand and join us in the Lord's Prayer and Pledge of Allegiance, please do.
Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nope. Entertain a motion from council to approve the consent agenda.
Moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. The consent agenda passes. At this time, we have a proclamation. We'd like to recognize National Suicide Prevention Week. Ms. Jen, is it Dale?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Is here, as well as Kimberly Christopher, representatives of Life Crisis. That's going to be presented by Councilman James Wynn.
So this is a proclamation for National Suicide Prevention Week. Suicide remains the 10th leading cause of death in the United States and the second leading cause of death among individuals between the ages of 10 and 34. And over 90% of the people who die by suicide have a diagnosable and treatable mental health condition, although often that condition is not recognized or treated. And organizations such as the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention are dedicated to saving lives and bringing hope to those affected by suicide through education, advocacy, and resources for those who have lost someone to suicide or who struggle. And the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention urges that we recognize suicide as a preventable public health problem and address disparities in access to mental health care, promote awareness that suicide most often occurs when stressors exceed someone's coping abilities, and implement strategies to improve access to quality mental health, substance abuse, and suicide prevention services and programs. Now, therefore, the Wicomico County Council and the County Executive hereby designate September 10th to 16th, 2023 as National Suicide Prevention Week in Wicomico County.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the Life Crisis Center, the Life Crisis Center is the primary call center for the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, handling all calls on the Eastern Shore. So far this year, we have taken 1,998 calls in our call center. So we are very busy, and I think I speak for everyone that works in our call center. We are happy and blessed and thankful that we can provide such a vital source of information, comfort, and support to those in need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we'd like to recognize with a proclamation to recognize National Recovery Month, Christina Bowie Simpson. There we are. Wicomico County Opioid Coordinator and Lead Project Manager, Councilman Jeff Merritt.
Okay. All right, good evening, everybody. This is a proclamation for National Recovery Month. Whereas National Recovery Month is held every September to educate Americans that substance use treatment and mental health services can enable those with a substance and/or mental health disorder to recover and live a healthy, rewarding life. And whereas Recovery Month celebrates the gains made by those in recovery and reinforces that behavioral health is essential, treatment is effective, and people can recover. And whereas millions of Americans' lives have been transformed through recovery, and Recovery Month provides a vehicle to celebrate these accomplishments, speaking about the gains made by those in recovery and sharing success stories that helps increase awareness and furthers a greater understanding about the disease of mental and substance use disorders. Now, therefore, the Wicomico County Council and the County Executive hereby proclaim September as National Recovery Month in Wicomico County and encourage all citizens to celebrate those who are in recovery and give support and hope for those struggling with a substance use disorder, done this 5th day of September 2023, signed by the County Executive and the Wicomico County Council. Congratulations. Very well deserved. Now you get to talk.
Oh, I get to talk.
Yes.
They didn't tell me I got to talk tonight, but I just want to take a moment to thank the council and the county executive for recognizing National Recovery Month. I think substance use and substance use disorders are something that are highly stigmatized in our society, which is why we go purple, and we hope to see some of you out at our Go Purple our events this month. But just really to shine a light and also share that recovery looks different, right? Recovery looks different for everyone, and there are many different paths to recovery. So we work really hard at the health department and as part of Wicomico Goes Purple to shatter the stigma of addiction, to raise awareness, and really to just wrap our arms around those who are in recovery, because it's definitely not easy. So thank you guys for recognizing National Recovery Month tonight. We appreciate it.
So this is the 5th year
Yes,
of Wicomico Goes Purple, and you started in year 1, right?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thanks. Thank you. See you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Are we at the,
I believe you have the public hearings for the first 2 legislative bills.
so we're here tonight for a public hearing on legislative bill number 2023-12, which is an act to amend Chapter 174 of the Wicomico County Code titled Nuisances. Article 1 titled Nuisances, Abandoned Vehicles and Firearms, Section 174.3 titled Violations and Penalties, Section 174-4 titled Severability, and Article 2 titled Graffiti, Section 174-13 titled Violations and Penalties. We have Mr. Tony Williams from the Code Enforcement Office here tonight. If the council wants to hear from Mr. Williams, this was passed on first reading, published for public hearing. You're here tonight for a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. At this time, we open the floor for a public hearing on legislative bill number 2023-12. If you have any comments you'd like to make in reference to this legislative bill, come to the podium, please. State your name, your county of residence, and your concerns. Seeing none, that concludes the public hearing for legislative bill 2023-12. Entertain a motion from council to approve legislative bill number 2023-12.
So moved. Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed. Legislative bill 2023-12 passes unanimously. Is that as good as a roll call?
I would suggest you do it.
I'm going to do roll call.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. Legislative bill number 2023-12 passes unanimously. Thank you.
Second item on your agenda is a public hearing for legislative bill number 2023-13, an act to amend Chapter 141 of the Wicomico County Code titled Fees, Section 141-3 titled Department of Planning, Zoning, and Community Development. Again, this is a public hearing tonight, and Mr. Tony Williams is here from Code Enforcement Office if you have questions.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. At this time, we open the floor for public hearing on legislative bill number 2023-13. If you have any comments you'd like to make in reference to this legislative bill, come to the podium, please. State your name, your county of residence, and your concerns. That concludes the public hearing on legislative bill number 2023-13. Entertain a motion from council to approve legislative bill number 2023-13.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If you are in favor, you will say aye. If not, you'll say nay. All those in favor, we will start with Councilwoman Shields.
Aye.
Councilman Merritt.
Aye.
Vice President Baker.
Aye.
Councilman Wynn.
Aye.
Councilman Hastings.
Aye.
Councilman Holloway.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Legislative Bill number 2023-13 passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Benson. Mrs. Hurley, good evening.
Okay, good
Before I go to you, Delegate Carl Anderson, welcome. Glad to have you tonight.
Okay, good evening, Mr. President, council members, ladies and gentlemen. Next on the agenda this evening is a public hearing on resolution number 113-2023. This is to amend the fiscal year 2023 capital budget to adjust funding for the renovation of the old courthouse in the amount of $150,000. A public hearing notice was posted on the county's website and published in a local newspaper. And we have Pam Olin here, Director of Finance, and Pete Matthews, our General Services Supervisor, if you have any questions.
This time we open the floor for a public hearing on resolution number 113-2023. If you have any comments that you'd like to make in regard to this resolution, come to the podium, please. State your name, your county of residence, and your concerns. Concludes the public hearing on resolution number 113-2023. Entertain a motion from council
So move.
to approve resolution 113-2023.
So move.
We have one. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution 113-2023 passes.
Okay, next is the veto of Legislative Bill 2023-11 and charter provision for council's reconsideration for 11-D. Legislative Bill 2023-11 pertaining to the removal of salaries for the Assistant Director of Administration position, the Director of Public Works position, and the Deputy Director of Public Works position was introduced on July the 5th. Council then held a public hearing and adopted the bill on August the 1st. The legislation was then presented to the county executive on August the 2nd, for which she had 21 days to return the bill to the county council with her approval or veto. The bill was returned to the council office on August the 22nd, 2023, with the executive's veto. Per Charter Section 411D, quote, upon veto, the county executive shall provide in writing a statement of the reasons for the veto. The veto message shall be entered in the Journal of the County Council and not later than its next legislative session day. The county council may reconsider the bill if, upon reconsideration, at least 5 members of the county council vote in the affirmative, the bill shall be law. A copy of the executive's press release stating the reason she is vetoing the bill is in the brief book, and with council's permission, I will enter the veto message into the journal.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. At this time, I entertain a motion for council to reconsider Legislative Bill 2023-11. Need a motion.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Mr. Benson, if you could do us a favor and give us an opinion, please, on the bill and the veto, if you don't mind.
Ms. Hurley stated the history with regard to Bill 2023-11 with regard to the dates. Again, to reaffirm what she said, county executive had 21 days to return the bill either with approval or veto. On the 20th day, she returned the bill with a veto. The council has, under the charter, the council may reconsider the bill at the next legislative session, which is this session. And if the council has 5 members who vote in the affirmative, they can overcome the veto.
Mr. Benson, any discussion on council?
I was curious, so if we do overturn it, before like a judge rules on whether or not these are valid positions that are, that they're valid appointments, if we rule on this and we override it, could that be in a way of attempting to control the appointment process?
Is that directed to me, Mr.?
Yes, that's a question. That's a question. I'm sorry.
As I understand it, the bill as passed was an amendment of the budget adopted by council, and the council's act in passing the bill was to amend the budget And if the budget is amended under the charter, if there's a disagreement about the funds, those funds go back into an operational fund. So it's not, they're not terminating employees. The council's position, at least as I understand it, is that there are no current employees that are legally hired in those positions. As such, they're not being terminated because they were never hired.
And that leads my question, is that Mr. Wilbur believes that they are legally hired. And so we're going against the county attorney's opinion. Am I wrong on that, Paul?
Paul Wilbur, County Attorney. Right, that is my opinion.
Right, so that's what I was saying, is his opinion is that they are legally hired, and our opinion is that they're not legally hired. So if we defund these positions, we remove the positions because they are legally hired. So, and that makes me believe, you know, how does the process work? Because it seems to me that, you know, he believes they're hired, we don't believe they're hired. So if we're going to make a decision, I truly believe that this should be going to a judge before we go ahead and make a decision like this that guts the upper management of our county government, because his opinion says that they're hired.
Well, I take Mr. Wilbur at his word that that's his opinion. I don't think it's correct. The attorney that I'm substituting for, Mr. Mitchell, had rendered an opinion, and his opinion was that they were not properly hired. I've had the opportunity to review the facts, and I don't agree with Mr. Wilbur's opinion. I respect Mr. Wilbur greatly, but you know, if you have 5 different lawyers, you get 5 different opinions. And in this case, I don't agree with Mr. Wilbur's position.
Can I ask you a question? So, let's just say I'm the county executive, and the rest of this is the council, and I want to bring an appointment to us. Now, the council brings it in a closed session, and they have a consensus and says, we don't want this person. And then I sent an email saying, would we reconsider this appointment? Now, from my understanding is, how can someone in the executive's department submit an appointment if it never gets into a legislative session, if we're going by the definition of the council? So my question is if the council believes that it has to be submitted in a legislative session, how can it be submitted in legislative session if our council does not put it in a legislative session? That's my question, because we can ultimately say we'll never put it in a legislative session based on the way that this council interprets it. And since that's not my opinion, but that's the opinion of most of the people up here, I look at it and I say, okay, you know, some people disagree that the Constitution is superior to the Charter, which it is superior, and our Constitution says that we need to be separate and distinctly different. And when I look at that and I bring it up to this, I say, there's a lot of ambiguity, and I would agree with Paul. How can you say that there's no ambiguity with this language, and that the council can pretty much determine whether or not they want to submit an appointment or not submit an appointment? So essentially, they could have a stellar candidate, and the council can say, we'll never put him in a legislative session.
I can answer that for you, Bob. The executive, after the closed sessions, the executive never requested to have no submittals at all were ever made. No requests for submittals were ever made to have those positions put forward in the legislative session. They were not made. They weren't even requested. If they had been requested, they would have been put on the agenda, no different than the 35 other resolutions and legislative bills that we passed for the executive that were submitted for legislative session.
So the email that she sent us saying, could you please reconsider the appointment for Matthew Lightsall, did you not get that email? Did no one else get that email, or was I the only one?
We have a resolution on the agenda tonight where the council hasn't agreed in a work session to fund a new attorney at a cost of $150,000, but that's on the agenda because it was requested. So in no case whatsoever does the council reject a formal request for
Right.
something for a submittal to be made in a legislative session.
And I understand that. I understand that. But the ambiguity in the language of the charter really kind of tells me, is the process right? Because we all knew that's who she wanted. Like, we were in the closed session, we knew that's who she wanted. If we were going to say that's not who she wanted, then you weren't in the same meeting as me. But they brought this person to us, okay? And the language in that charter was really confusing. Because, okay, Mr. Benson, how can you submit somebody if the council cannot, if she wants to submit someone in a legislative, it's hard to explain this, especially when you're the only person that is viewing it like this. But if you, Mr. Benson, if you submit something, if I submit something as an executive in a legislative session, the council can put it in a closed session, right? Am I correct?
Mr. Nguyen, I'm prepared to address the questions you're asking, but it's not a simple question, and it's not going to take 2 minutes to answer it.
Okay. Well,
So I guess I'm asking for guidance from the council in general. Do you want me to go into detail about
I'll
this, or
simply
do you want to just, or not? Because I can't
I'll
answer
repeat.
it in a one-sentence answer.
Well, my question is this is the short and sweet of it, is that the executive can put something in, a request to put it in legislative, it can go into closed. She can put it in closed, it can go into legislative. She doesn't have control over the submission process. And the way that we view the submission process, we can hold hostage the 45-day period of when that starts. That's what I'm trying to say, and that's what I don't agree with.
Let me just give you a short answer, unless the council wants a longer answer. The short answer is I don't agree with your facts. The facts are that in this instance, the county executive requested specifically, at least as to the assistant director of administration, the county executive specifically requested a closed work session. That's what
Right.
she requested. She got a closed work session. In every other significant appointment that the county executive has made that I'm aware of since she was elected, she followed up a memo requesting a closed session, and either immediately or shortly after sent a second memo requesting an open legislative session to approve it. In this instance, she did not do that. So the facts as you've stated them, I don't agree with your facts. And if I don't agree with your facts, I don't agree with your conclusion. So I don't believe that's what happened. And there's a second employee, and you're not addressing that, but the second employee has to do with the deputy director position. And to the best of my understanding from the facts I've reviewed, at no time did the county executive ever request a open legislative session for approval for the young lady to be either the director of public works or the deputy director of public works. The only thing she ever did was submit a request that she be approved, I believe, for a temporary appointment, but she didn't renew that, or she made an appointment for a temporary position but never asked to have it extended. And so currently you have as I see it, you have a person who has never been confirmed as either the director of public works or the deputy director of public works, who is now in some sort of an acting position and is effectively running the department. And I don't understand, if you accept that the county executive can do that, you effectively have overturned the county charter with regard to the confirmation process. So I don't agree with either one of your factual scenarios, and consequently I come to a different conclusion than you come to.
Okay, all right.
And unfortunately, I think everybody understands this. I am substituting here for Mr. Mitchell because Mr. Mitchell has a health issue. And I have stepped in the middle of a situation where there was a case filed. And the reason that I understand what the facts are is because I've had to get up to speed on what the case is about. And consequently, I have reviewed what I understand the facts to be. And the opinion that I'm rendering is based on my review and preparation for that case.
Now, one more question. Okay, so I know that's your opinion. Wilbur has a different opinion. So we override the veto. Let's just say we're going to override it. I'm just presuming. But before a judge rules on it, we're going to override it, right? So would that be...
Well, you're assuming, number one, that the judge is going to ever rule on it, and I don't know if a judge will ever rule on it.
Right.
I mean,
okay.
it's in court. It may or may not ever get ruled on, so you may or may not ever get the answer one way or the other that you're looking for. In the meantime, you have a situation where monies are being expended,
Right.
And there is a disagreement between the two bodies, the county executive and the county council, as to whether it's valid expenditure of funds. And the county council has the ability, if it chooses to do so, to amend the budget.
Right. So when does it become a part of... What is that part in the charter where it's controlling or supervising the executive branch? You know that part?
I'm familiar with it.
So what I'm trying to say, I know you don't agree with me, but you take away the salaries and you say it's just removing them temporarily, but you know, we're not going to get the salaries back unless you bring someone the council wants. So you take away the salaries and we don't give the salaries back until we get what we want. So that's just my question is this proper to do it in the manner that we're doing it, removing salaries?
Is it proper?
What I'm saying is two wrongs don't make a right. You remove the salaries. Is that an attempt to supervise and direct the executive branch? That's just a
I don't believe
question.
any member sitting on this council is trying to direct or tell the executive's office what to do.
So you don't want to pick who the appointees are?
No,
That's
no. What I
all-
want to do is confirm them or not confirm them,
I mean, that's
Okay.
what
which
the
is
charter
exactly
requires.
what the charter says.
Right, and it also says that council members have no way, they're not allowed to be a part of the appointment process. You're not allowed to pick the appointees.
We don't.
It certainly sounds like you do.
James, you know, right?
Anyway, I'm getting nowhere with this. I just wanted to speak my piece, all right?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other comments? All those in favor of the legislative bill 2023-11 as originally adopted, we will take it by a roll call. All those in favor will say aye. We'll start with Councilman Shields. Aye. Councilman Merritt?
Aye.
Vice President Baker?
Aye.
Councilman Holloway?
Aye.
Councilman Hastings?
Aye.
Councilman Wynn?
Now, this is taking it to override the veto? Is that what?
This is to approve legislative bill 2023-11 as originally adopted. It is to override the veto.
Oh, okay. No, thank you.
Okay. Chair votes aye. Legislative bill number 2023-11 as originally adopted has been approved by 6 to 1 majority. Thank you.
Okay, next for council's consideration is resolution number 114-2023. This is waiving any potential conflict of interest regarding Paul D. Wilbur Esquire and the law firm of Webb, Wilbur, Dowse, Mathers, and Illuminati LLP, representing the county executive with regard to appointments and pay. The county executive has requested special legal counsel to represent her in the lawsuit that she has filed against the county council. This resolution would waive any potential conflict for the county attorney and his firm to represent her in the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Hurley. I entertain a motion from council to approve resolution number 114, 2023. Second. Discussion.
I just wanted to ask, did you have a question? Paul, do you feel conflicted?
Yes, as I've stated, that this is an inherent conflict because per the
Right.
charter, our law firm represents both the executive and the council.
So if this passes, would you represent the executive?
If this passes, then I'm going to meet with my partners and we will make a decision on that.
Josh,
Okay.
did you have a comment?
You just answered my question. Thank you, Mr. Wilbur.
Okay?
But he just asked your question, too.
I mean, I don't think we feel the council, I don't think feels there's a conflict of interest. And Mr. Wilbur, I believe you accepted that responsibility when you wrote your opinion to begin with.
Understand.
Yeah. So, any other discussion? All those in favor of Resolution 114-2023, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution passes.
Okay, the next item for business is Resolution Number 115-2023. This is to authorize a supplemental appropriation from contingency to increase fiscal year '24 funds for contractual services for external legal counsel and to approve William Hudson Esquire as special counsel for the county executive with regard to appointments and pay.
Entertain a motion to approve Resolution 115-2023.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing
Okay.
none. All those in favor of Resolution
Wait,
115?
Josh,
Yes, Josh.
I just can get some clarity, I guess, as far as this will be setting aside $150,000 for contractual service from contingency to pay for external legal counsel. I guess trying to get some understanding of that amount, the $150,000 towards that. Is this something that we've why that amount? I guess is what I was trying to get a little bit better understanding on.
Pam Olin, Finance Director. It literally was picked by the increase in the county council's consulting number, so it mirrors that number. That's the only reason $150,000 was selected.
And what would this be used for?
It would be used for the attorney that is being requested
Do what?
for the cases that may or may not go forward.
I think for clarity for the public.
Case is referring to,
The disagreement between council and
disagreement between the council.
and administration
Okay. All right,
in
okay.
regards to the positions that were just discussed.
okay, all right, thank you. That's what I wanted to,
My question, are you done, Joe? You done?
I'm not.
James, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was just, so the $150,000 that we're going to use, what we could use for William Hudson, couldn't we just, instead of paying Mr. Wilbur's organization, couldn't we just use that for this other attorney? And it's money's the same, right? We could still use the same money for the other attorney.
So in creating the original budget for legal for the fiscal year, there was no consideration taken for additional funding for extraordinary circumstances. It was just routine matters built into the number. And so most likely, if a case was to go forward, the funding available in the legal budget would not be sufficient to cover everyday matters as well as this. So this would be providing funding available in the executive's budget for this specifically.
I feel like our council did that February 21st.
Shane?
I do want to go on record and say, I do believe she should have an attorney, but I think it should be Mr. Wilbur, and Mr. Mitchell was going to represent us. And I believe that because of the opinion you wrote and the opinion Mr. Mitchell wrote. As far as funding, I don't know if that's something that we can just approve as it goes, but I mean, 150,000 blanketed is a lot of money.
So historically, as the fiscal year progresses, finance monitors significant dollars spent in multitude of accounts. And we have come back to council for amendments to legal counsel for other reasons because we had multiple things going on during the year. And that, again, I can't answer as to what Paul's firm is going to do based on the previous item. But that is a way to handle it, that we would come back to council for periodic budget amendments for legal if it went forward with Paul versus the other. And I am saying if because I I just am stating the facts.
So if this goes to court and we do run into a financial situation with Mr. Wilbur's firm, the executive's office could come back to us and say, hey, I'm short this amount of money.
And if we went forward in whatever form it goes forward in, yes, it would be an account that finance would monitor on a frequent basis, just because it would be an extraordinary situation. It wouldn't be something that we would wait till May to find out. We would be monitoring the bills on a monthly, quarterly basis.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I just want to clarify that the $150,000 that's in the council's office budget wasn't strictly for a litigation attorney. I mean, that was to be used for other expenses as well. So
I understand.
wanna
I
point
just
that
made
out.
there was growth there, we did a growth. It's how we picked the number.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. And so the public is aware, because we assume that the public always understands what is coming before us. So the public does understand, this Resolution 115, 2023 is asking the county council to authorize the hiring of an outside legal attorney and to allow for $150,000 to hire this attorney so that the executive branch can go to court in a lawsuit against the county council. I don't know if everybody may know that on PAC 14, but that's so that everyone understands what this resolution is in reference to. Any further discussion?
I just want to say one thing. I'm trying not to open my mouth, but I, as a person, will not support hiring an attorney to sue me. I'm not going to do it. That, to me, that's idiotic. We would be stupid to do that. I mean, unfortunately, this has happened, but they talk about trying to get along and things like that. How are we going to get along if we're being carried to court? And it's just a simple thing of getting qualified people to, which we have hired qualified people that the county executive has brought to us, but we just, it's a problem with these two people. And I think we have a right to disagree, but not be disagreeable, because one day we're going to have an issue that we all agree on. But this just happens and it's blown out of proportion. But I'm not going to support hiring Mr. Hudson to carry me to court.
Yes, Mr. Thomas?
Yeah.
Yes, Josh?
Just one quick question, just process-wise, I guess, I still, well, first of all, I'd make any bet this is not going to go anywhere. It's in the courts, and they're not going to pick it up. But if they did, do we have any understanding of when or the timing of that? Does anybody?
No.
I'll look to my legal friends.
No. Mr. Benson?
The case, I think, has been assigned to retired Judge Brett Wilson from Dorchester County. My understanding is that Judge Wilson is having surgery in the middle of this month. So I think the expectation is that he's not going to probably be back to work till early October. So my guess would be that the earliest that there's going to be a hearing is sometime in the month of October. Now, that's a hearing. That's not a resolution of the case. That's a hearing. And the judge could resolve it relatively quickly, or it could drag on. It's going to be, the person in the black robe is going to make those decisions.
The comments? Jeff?
So, speaking of dragging on, I believe we were told previously the attorney in question is $325 an hour?
That's correct.
So if we do a little math, that's 460 hours. That's 3 months worth of work. So, just doing a little math.
The comments? Seeing none.
One thing. So if this doesn't get picked up by the courts and the law goes into effect, what happens next? These two positions are...
Well, I mean, when you say it isn't picked up with the court, there's been a case filed by the executive. She's filed a writ of mandamus. The court is obviously going to have to deal with that. The next step is for the county council to file an answer to her complaint, which I would hope would happen very quickly, and that will put it at issue. The question then becomes, is it going to be, are there motions that might resolve the case, or will it go for a full-blown hearing? If it goes for a full-blown hearing, it's going to extend things out, and there's no way to predict that at this particular moment. So as a practical matter, if this, I think you have to assume that if this, that the courts are going to, the courts move at the speed courts move at, and that's not quick normally. And I think you have to assume that this is going to take a minimum of 2.5 to 3 months, and that's probably the earliest it's going to get resolved, and it could go 5 or 6 months. So if you're asking me what happened, well, are you, with that as a qualification, what, can you restate your question?
I'm asking, when this law goes in effect, when the target date happens, if they're still in their positions, where do we?
Which law are we talking about? The one that you passed earlier tonight?
Yes.
To defund it?
Yes.
The veto override?
Yes.
Well, I mean, you've defunded, you've taken the funding out for those positions. The council's position, as I understand it, is that there is no one legally hired in those positions, and the funding that's been used at this point has not been appropriately spent. So you basically remove those funds from the budget. And so that's a different question than what's going to happen with regard to the funding for the special counsel. The funding of the special counsel doesn't have any impact on the override of the veto. That's a done deal. You've already dealt with that.
Yep.
I may have brought this up before, and I may have not in public, but I do want to ask this question. Is the county not putting itself in serious liability, jeopardy, by having people that are not confirmed working in situations, any kind of situation, that there was some sort of accident? You know, one of these two people were involved in an accident, it was their fault. One of these two people designed something that failed. Isn't that a serious liability issue?
I suppose the potential is there that it could be.
More serious than if it was a legitimate employee, confirmed employee.
Well, I mean, if it's a confirmed employee, that employee is acting with the authority of the county when they take actions. In this situation, those employees, if they are not properly confirmed, as the council believes, then those employees have no authority to be acting on behalf of the council, on behalf of the county.
Well, I guess this wouldn't be a question, but this would be a statement. Would not the insurance company, our insurance company that we write insurance with, have a big concern about what's going on right now, if they knew about it? Now, I'm not addressing that to anybody except the public and the rest of this council. I just think it's a serious situation when we've got six people here, not 5, not 4, but 6 people have not agreed to confirm for whatever reason. Might be 6 different reasons. But we've got these people out here in the public doing things, driving cars, maybe operating equipment, maybe whatever they're doing, that they're putting this county in great jeopardy, and could be in the end causing the insurance company to not even want to write insurance with Wicomico County. If I was an insurance carrier, I would certainly look at this in an entirely different light about who I was writing insurance with. So anyway, that's all I have. If I misunderstand this, maybe somebody can correct me, but we're talking about 2 individuals. But if I understand correctly, the one individual is an employee in the Public Works Department. She just is, and she would be paid at her regular rate in the Public Works Department. So I don't think it would apply to her. The problem from the council's point of view is that she's she's not acting in her role that she's been hired for and that she's due to be paid for. She's been essentially appointed to run the department. So I think the issue with regard to her is slightly different than it is with the Director of Administration, the Assistant Director of Administration. And the same thing would be true with regard to the pay. She's still going to get paid. She just may not get paid the increased amount that she's getting paid as an acting deputy director. She still gets, I assume she still gets her regular paycheck, just not the increase.
Thank you, Mr. Benson.
So if you're defunding, to answer Mr. Wynn's question, I don't think you're defunding her position. You're just not agreeing to give her the increase in pay as an acting position. She's still, I assume she still gets paid. And she'll still get paid tomorrow, but she just will get paid at a lower rate than she would otherwise get paid.
Any other comments? Yes.
Oh, just so it said, obviously, I made this point before, but if the two names that were put forward tonight, they would be shot down again. So process, say what you will about process. We can always improve that. I think we should continue to improve that and clarify it. But as far as I'm concerned, we've got real issues in this county, from our fire service agreement to the water and sewer expansion to the sheriff's office needs the deputies. We got folks to the jail. We can go down the line. So spending $150,000 extra to sue ourselves doesn't seem like a great decision to me. That being said, yeah, I'll leave that. I'd love to continue to see us move forward, but not in this way, suing ourselves. I don't think this is a good look for the county. I don't think this is a good action, so I personally will not be supporting this. But I do, if the courts do come back and they do say that we need to go forward, then I want to make sure that the county executive has the legal counsel that they feel comfortable with, especially if Mr. Wilbur does not, his office does not want to move forward in that way. So, but I think we can address that at a future date when we find out whether or not this will even be dismissed.
Any other comments?
I would just like to say I'd like to see the right thing happen. And my question, reflecting kind of Josh and Cheney, is I wouldn't want to sue myself either. So is that a conflict of interest? Do we can we vote on this? Can we vote to sue ourselves or not sue ourselves? I mean, that's a real question here.
We're not voting to sue ourselves. We're voting to give money to the executive to sue us.
Right.
We're not voting to sue ourselves.
Wouldn't that be a conflict of interest, though, Joe?
Well, I think suing ourselves would be a conflict. We're not voting. We're not giving this money for
You get
us
what
to
I'm
sue
saying.
ourselves.
You get what I'm saying, Joe.
We're giving. They want the $150,000 so they can sue us.
And yep, and you know that. So is that a
And I'm
conflict
not going to
of
support
interest?
that, by the way.
Can I just, the reality is that there's already been a suit filed.
Right.
County council needs to defend it. So it's not a question of whether the county council wants to agree to sue itself. It's already been sued.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other comments? All those in favor of Resolution 115-2023, say aye.
Aye. Aye. Oh, wait, yeah.
Opposed?
Hold on.
Yes.
This is the resolution to approve supplemental appropriation for the $150,000.
Are we voting to approve the 150 or not approve?
This is the Resolution 115-2023 is a resolution to approve the funding and the attorney.
No.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to do a roll call.
There's too many lawyers in the room.
Excuse me?
We had it backwards.
Quiet, please.
We got into a long conversation there. I think
Yeah, this is
got lost in the weeds.
Excuse me?
We got lost in the weeds there. I think you need to.
Yeah, okay, well, this is Resolution 115-2023, authorizing a supplemental appropriation to from contingency. This is the monies that is being requested for the $150,000 for an attorney. Okay? Everybody good?
I just wanted to.
So if you say that you're in favor of that, of this resolution, then we would be approving the funding.
I understand.
But if you're opposed to that, then we would not be approving the funding. Okay, all right, valid question. Okay. So all those in favor of Resolution 115, 2023, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed. Chair votes opposed. Resolution 115-2023 fails by a vote of 6-1. Thank you, Ms. Owen. Thank you, Mr. Wilbur.
Okay, next is Resolution Number 116-2023. This is to authorize the county executive to sign a memorandum of understanding between Wicomico County, Maryland, and the Maryland Association of Boards of Education and the Maryland Association of Counties to comply with the Time to Care Act on terms advantageous to the county. And we have Donna O'Hara here, Director of Human Resources, and Pam Olin, Director of Finance.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 116-2023.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. Good evening. If you could state your name down for the...
Donna O'Hara, Director of Human Resources.
Thank you.
So we have been, I guess I'll take one step back. The state of Maryland has passed legislation called the Time to Care Act. This act, in summary, basically will require all employers in the state of Maryland to provide 12 weeks of paid leave to their employees for certain circumstances, primarily circumstances that mirror this federal FMLA Act, but it is an expansion of that. It allows for care of people that have been, you've been kind of assigned as their caregiver and may not meet the federal definition of FMLA. This legislation takes effect January 2026. The state of Maryland requires you to either pay into the funding, and they are going to provide dollars, or they're going to provide a figure that you're going to have to pay per employee per month to the state of Maryland to build a trust fund starting in October of 2024, basically 15 months prior to the start of the act. This legislation is allowing the county to look into an agreement between MABE, which is the Boards of Education in the state, and MACO, to opt out of the state plan and come up with a plan that meets the state's definition, but would not require upfront funding. It would require funding starting in January 2026. We are also investigating with one of our already current providers. They also do this service in other states across the country. We literally got, I got it this morning, and I have not honestly had a chance to read the full information as to what this is. And so this legislation would allow us to sign on to this collaborative if we wanted to. There are some potential deadlines to sign on, and that's why we're asking council to give the executive the authority under advisement from HR and finance as to whether or not this is the most advantageous route for us to go. The state will be releasing their rates in supposedly in less than 30 days. That's assuming they come out with them on time. This plan would allow us to, if we signed on, would allow us to be part of a consortium that would pull us out and hopefully meet the state deadline or definition without being part of the state pre-funding source.
Josh, you have a question?
I was just trying to make sure. Okay, so first of all, I guess is it the recommendation of HR and finance that we do sign on to this? And then
It's the recommendation to allow this legislation to pass, to give the authority to the executive to say whether or not we want to be part of the collaborative. Because, again, there are some time deadlines to be part of it. And with the legislative process being twice a month, sometimes it's not an easy process to meet all the deadlines that other people have. So what we're asking is for you to allow HR and finance to advise the administrative function to say yes or no, we want to sign on or we don't. And so, again, I don't have enough information and enough knowledge yet to say we want to, but I want us to have all available options to avoid us having to pay into the state fund 15 months in advance.
Do we know if any of our neighboring counties are a part of the
So I don't
consortium?
know about the counties. I do know the Board of Education is highly considering it.
Most other counties, HRs are looking at other alternative options and not doing the state.
I would like to see us postpone this until Ms. Olin can get more information on this. This could have a long ramifications. This Time to Care Act, this is going to be almost disastrous to businesses and the county and all. It's going to cost a lot of money, and I understand the purpose of possibly going into this group to try to avoid paying earlier. But what happens if we do that and then there's not enough money in the group to fulfill the obligations? And like Ms. Olin said, she doesn't have enough information right now. I'd like to see us to postpone this until there's a lot better understanding of it.
The one piece I do.
I understand, sorry. There's a motion to postpone, is there a second? Your motion to postpone fails, for lack of a second. Thank you.
May I add, the one piece that I am relatively confident of is it's going to be a self-funded model. So whatever the cost is associated with your employee, even though we're in a collaborative, that cost would be our cost. We would pay it as somebody incurs it, versus kind of like our health insurance. We pay based on usage. So yes, we would be part of a collaborative, and we would have to pay administrative costs once the thing started, because we would be hiring a company to manage this for us. But the piece that we would not have to be paying is any claims costs unless we had claims of our own. So the claims would be our own claim cost versus having to pay into a fund for 15 months. And we are looking at other options that would have that same benefit to us. It's just so early. Even with not having state rates yet, it's very hard to say what is the best course. And the state's not releasing their regulations until January. So we are trying to make decisions that are best for the county with limited information, but the one problem is this collaborative is planning to go out to bid in December prior to state regulations being issued. So if we want to be part of it, we have to be part of it when they go out to bid.
We still have 2 months.
But they have requested for the people to sign on prior to before that.
You're saying we couldn't get in a year later?
It's
Probably be
really
begging people to get in.
The problem is there's so many unknowns right now. Again, we are asking for the ability to use administrative judgment for the best purposes of the county as a whole. Because the other piece of this is if we don't do anything, the state is going to bill us in October of 2024 per employee per month. We as an employer have the right to charge 50% of that cost to our employees. I don't yet know what that cost is because they haven't told us. But every employer in the state will be required to cover at least 50% of whatever that rate is, and they can pass on 50% of it to their employees. The other piece of this plan is that our benefits are trumped by this.
Question by that.
It means they can't use we can't deduct from their sick time or anything like that if they qualify under this.
They get to use that first. They don't have to use their own sick time or their own PTO or anything.
Sort of as a point of clarification, this is sort of a shall-may thing. In other words, you're asking for authority, the council to give the executive authority here so that she may act.
Correct.
Right. Question I would have is, once we do have that authority, if we were to vote for that authority and the MOU is put into place, would that then come back to the council for final approval before we actually engage in this consortium?
No.
Not necessarily. It would be that you have given the authority that you've relied on the expertise of administration, both HR, finance, and the executive office, to make that decision that it is the appropriate use. Again, we are investigating other paths, and again, one of those is a current provider for us that has done this in other states. And we actually had a meeting with them during Mako in regards to this, so it's not like we're just, saying, oh, this is the best thing, this collaborative is what we want to do.
Right.
We're trying to look at what is the best source or the best avenue for us to cover this requirement that the state has without having to pre-fund. And again, there are some deadlines, and I don't know, they aren't yet saying, but originally they said that we had to sign by September 1st. They haven't quite enforced that, but they really want to know before October 1st.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, Josh.
Just say too, I feel better, obviously. Well, first of all, I trust you, both of you, and your opinions on this, and I know you'll come out with the right choice. I know it's a lot of information, and I appreciate all that you're trying to weed through to understand that. I know we also have, of course, the school board and our board of schools, the Board of Education, as well as Mako involved with this. However you look into their guidance, I'm sure that that's going to be good for the county. So I fully support whatever you think is right.
All those in favor of Resolution 116, 2023, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried. Resolution 116, 2023 passes 6-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Okay, next for your consideration is Resolution Number 117-2023. This is to accept grant funds from the Maryland Region 4 Healthcare Coalition for the Safe Station Project by the Emergency Services Department through the Delmarva Regional Healthcare Mutual Aid Group. And we have Mr. Lorenzo Cropper here, Director of Emergency Services.
Mr. Cropper. Good evening. Entertain a motion from council to approve Resolution 117-2023.
So moved. Second.
And discussion. Mr. Cropper, you want to? You have the floor if you.
Safe Station really gives public access to the AEDs. I met with Steve Miller to come up with a potential listing of where they could be located. But we all know that cardiac arrest is a major killer, and the AED, there's no doubt, saves lives. So by having them readily available out to the general public, hopefully we'll have a better chance of saving lives.
Any comments or questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Were they placed, will people have training to use those?
The AEDs are pretty straightforward. As long as you hit the button and cut them on, they kind of tell you and direct you what to do.
Okay.
We appreciate you seeking out the grant funding as well. It's important for the county. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor of Resolution 117-2023, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Resolution passes. Thank you, Mr. Cropper.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Hurley. Good evening again, Mr. Benson.
Legislative Bill Number 2023-14 is an act to amend the purchasing manual, Section Roman numeral 4E1, professional services to include computer software developer as a professional service in purchasing manual. Section Roman numeral 7, authority to waive competitive bidding, C5, be amended to include administrative work, and paragraph 5B to be added to include an example, existing computer software and associated maintenance support agreements. This is here tonight for first reading and introduction, and Mr. Wilbur is here to address any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. Entertain a motion from council to approve the introduction of legislative bill number 2023-14. Motion?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion.
Evening again.
Thank you, Mr. Wilbur. Any questions for Mr. Wilbur?
I think
You may get off easy. Anything you want to share with us?
I think this was a subject for work session last session.
How many billable minutes is that?
Wasn't looking at the clock.
Yeah, you're correct, Mr. Wilbur. Okay, well, I think we have no further questions. All those in favor of the introduction of legislative bill number 2023-14, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. The introduction of legislative bill 2023 passes unanimously. Mrs. Hurley, I'm assuming we'll schedule a public hearing?
We will, and that will be held in October.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, we open the floor for public hearings. Anyone that has any comments they'd like to make, please come to the podium. Please state your name, your county of residence, and your concerns. Please make yourself familiar, of course, with our legislative process that is noted on the agendas. At the same time, there is a 3-minute limit. I'd ask you to try not to repeat yourself too much so that we can all get out at a respectable hour. Thank you very much.
Council, I cannot say all that needs to be said in 3 minutes, so I'll do my best to summarize this. I'm advising you of just a few of the violations of the Wicomico County Charter that all of you have just voted yes tonight to override Madam Executive's veto have now committed. Counts 1 through 3 of the Wicomico County Charter, Article 3, Sections 314A-1, A-2, and A-3. Count 4 violation of Wicomico County Charter, Article Section 4, Wicomico County Charter, Article 4, Section 414-B, and Section 314, non-interference with the executive branch reads, A, generally, neither the county council nor any of its members shall attempt to supervise, direct, administer, or interfere with any of the functions of the personnel of the county executive branch. 2, attempt to influence the head of any department, county government concerning the appointment of any person to his or her removal of any office or employment. And 3 reads, in any way take part in the appointment of or removal of any officer or employee of the county except as specifically provided in this charter. Section 14, temporary administrative appointments. I'll just jump to B, the appointment of any person as appointed as acting director of administration or acting head of a department may not exceed 90 calendar days except by council approval, which Ms. Lankford, it was moving from one acting position to another, and you guys are pretty much defunding her position. The first 3 violations are because of tonight's vote. You're interfering with the executive branch. You failed to properly handle the situation months ago because your president led you astray. If you had simply voted to disapprove Matthew Letzel in a legislative session, we wouldn't be here now. But to make matters worse, you're defunding not only this position, but 2 other positions. I have provided you all with copies of the Charter Articles 3, 4, and 5 and sections that apply to this situation we're in right now. I hope you take time to read them, but I doubt you will. Because Attorney Paul Wilbur has already advised you all of this with his own written opinion, emails, several other people as well, and you clearly are ignoring it. So you won't listen to the executive, you won't listen to your attorney, you won't listen to your constituents. So who will you listen to? Maybe some official investigations or lawsuits. Maybe while I'm talking about official investigations, Mr. President, I wish to address you on this one. I'm asking you to open an official investigation on Councilman Holloway.
Be very careful here, Mr. Cooper.
I am being very careful, sir. And his own separate violation of the County Charter, Article 2, Section 202-D, forfeiture of office. In closing comments of the last meeting, Councilman Holloway alluded to a donation he made to a person's fundraiser, and he thought it would be enough to stop her from coming here to comment. And at the coming here to comment at the council meetings. He referred to his donation several times and offered to make it more the next time so she definitely wouldn't come back. This does actually fit the legal definition of a bribe, and bribery is a crime of moral turpitude. Moral turpitude violations are strict grounds for forfeiture per County Charter, Article 2, Section 202-D. I've also included a copy of Article 2 of the Charter, an official definition of the crimes of moral turpitude. I hope you look into this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Good evening, Holly Wortell, Wicomico County resident. Good evening, Madam Councilman and gentlemen. I am here this evening because of what was said during the last meeting after I left, to basically when I came, when you all were at a fire meeting and I was selling challenge coins. I didn't ask you for money. I asked you if you'd like one, that they're $20. I've never asked anyone for money in my life, Mr. Holloway. Okay? And then for you to say what you did really hurt me. And I know what I said probably upset you and hurt you as well. I wish you would have been more like Shane Baker and came to me the night of the meeting and we had a very nice conversation that lasted a few hours. But instead, you sat there to bribe me. Maybe we should have paid her more money to keep her away from these meetings. That is bribery. Mr. President, Mr. Cannon, that is in violation, the charter violation, Article 2, Section 202D. I want something done about that. I'm not going to go away, Joe, I'm sorry. I'm not going away. And then for you to laugh about the bribe, it sounded like a bribe to me. And anyone that would get on here. You know, I voted for you. I voted for, just about all of you sitting up there at the last election. And how dare you say something like that about me representing a volunteer fire company in this county that I represent proudly. Do you know what that says to the rest of the firefighters in this county? How about this? How about if I give you your $20 and you keep it moving? Would you like your $20 back, sir?
You don't talk back and forth to people at the podium, Ms. Ortiz. I know what I said. Okay.
And it was not professional at all.
Fine, that's fine.
It was not professional. Well, Mr. Cannon, President Cannon, I want something done. I will not go away. This is bribery, and something needs to be done. Please look into that section and article, okay?
Section 202D, is that what you said?
Yes, sir, in Article 2, Section 202D.
Article 2.
It is grounds for forfeiture of position, so
Thank you, Mr. Tell.
thank you.
Any other public comments?
Good evening, Council, Madam Executive, citizens of Wicomico. My name's Kyle Cole. I live over in the town of Hebron, here in Wicomico County. I prepared this in hope to speak earlier, because the last county council meeting, I was actually sick, and all the other ones I've actually been at work because I work 24-hour shifts. I'm going to give you guys a few numbers, because I've heard that the council is people of numbers. 103,980, 53,132, 32,489, 24,584. I bet you nobody in this room can tell me what those numbers are and what they represent. Pardon me?
Population.
Population.
Good. Well, that was good, Shane.
Wicomico County has 103,000 citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Worcester County has 53,132. Dorchester, 32,489. Somerset, 24,584. But you know the difference between those counties here on the lower shore and this county? Our elected officials aren't fighting. Ours are fighting. Theirs are not. We elected you guys in positions to work together for the betterment of the county. We have public hearings, so that way we can come forward and voice our opinions. Tonight, you guys also defunded 3 positions that those 3 counties have. Director of Public Works, Deputy Director of Public Works, and Assistant Director of Administration. Now, I've watched all the county council meetings. I've heard all the comments. I'm sure you guys are fully aware of Eastern Shore Undercover Facebook page. A ton of people have outspoke and put their opinions out there about what is going on with this county and completely disapprove. I've even spoke to a bunch of citizens outside in District 1 and not just in the city of Salisbury limits. And they all disapprove the way this county is going. By defunding these positions tonight, you have prevented this county from moving forward into the future so we can get our water and sewer out in the rural areas. So we can actually fix our roads that are needed, especially down in District 2, where there's roads that are falling off into the ditches. So these positions are very, very important. And the fact that this county defunded them, then that didn't only just say, hey, we don't want to help our county executive. That stabbed every single person that you that voted for you in the bags. So thank you and have a good night and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Bruce Robson, Wicomico County. I'm really not the sharpest tool in the kit, so maybe this is understandable, but I feel like I'm actually not that different from the majority of people. This is complex. I mean, in my opinion, we've got somebody who I respect a lot, Mr. Wilbur. Don't know Mr. Benson, but I assume he's a respectable lawyer. They're giving us two different opinions. I hear a lot of people quote just one and say that is fact, and yet I'm hearing two. It's just complex. I don't quite get it all right? I've got my opinion, but it's really a completely uninformed opinion. To me, the most upsetting thing about this is that people have gone into their corners and are not coming out. No matter whether you got to agree with me 100% or not at all. That's what it feels like, you know? And unfortunately, we've got somewhat of a history of that in this county. And including some of the council who's been here before, and I say some of the council, previous councils to this one, previous executive officers, county executives, except for this one, all right? And so when I hear somebody say, one attorney says this, so this is fact, I'm thinking, how do you come to that decision? I mean, again, I'm not that smart, but I need to sit down with somebody and sort of figure it out, all right? And that goes for then to taking the next step where people are asked to resign or told they should resign. A duly elected official or officials are said they should resign. You know, we got to sort of back off here and understand that somebody is not necessarily talking out of a bad position just because they disagree with you. You know, and so that's my 2 cents. I just would hope people would calm down a bit, be willing to listen to what somebody else is saying, even if they disagree with you. Because I hear a lot of that is not going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Thank you.
Also, I'd like to know folks' name when they come up here. I'd like to hear what it is.
Mark Danderson. Excuse me, Mark Danderson. I'm a resident of Wicomico County, city of Salisbury. I actually want to agree with you. You know, you've heard a lot of very stringent and that my way is the right way. I agree with you. We have 2 different legal opinions here. And I've heard much talk about people resigning and people being removed from office or not following what the voters voted for you to do. Well, I voted for you, Mr. Cannon, and you, Mr. Hastings. You are doing exactly what I voted for you to do, which is to uphold the county charter. And as a legislative body, you have a responsibility to rein in an overreaching executive, and the tool you have to do that is the purse strings. That goes back. That is a governmental tradition, an Anglo-Saxon government that goes all the way back to King John and the signing of the Magna Carta. Now there are 2 issues here. I don't know who's right, who's wrong, and then my final point, what I want to say to finish up, is I understand why we have legal counsel. They're here to defend the county, elected representatives, and the employees. But if you 2 are really going to fight this battle in court, I really wish you did it on your dime and not mine. Thank you.
Thank you.